What's up guys, it's Jay with Bearded Dad Fishing, and today I'm showing you a side-by-side comparison of the brand new Old Town Sportsman PDL 120 Pro versus the OG Sportsman PDL 120. I own both of these kayaks, so I'm going to show you exactly what's changed and whether or not you should upgrade. But first, dad joke of the day, what do you call a sad coffee? A depresso. And that dad joke is brought to us by Heriberto Flores of the Facebook group Kayak Fishing Dads. Now this is the brand new PDL 120 Pro. Now this actually happens to be the ePDL Plus version. The only difference between the PDL Plus and then the standard 120 Pro is the drive it comes with. So for this comparison, we're keeping it apples to apples. We're not including the ePDL drive. Although I'll talk about it and some of its benefits, we're talking only about the hull of this kayak versus the hull of this kayak and all the features it comes with. This is the OG PDL 120 and I've had it for 4 years. I absolutely love this kayak. So we'll see if this one is worth the upgrade. So first things first, let's talk about the hull specs. You're looking at a 12-foot kayak versus a 12-foot kayak. No change in the length. 36 inches wide on the original PDL 120 and 36 inches wide on the PDL 120 Pro. Now what's gonna change is the hull weight. The assembled hull weight on the original PDL 120 is 116 pounds. That includes the drive, that includes the seat. And the hull weight on the PDL 120 Pro is 131 pounds, again with the standard drive and the seat. So that's also gonna change the usable weight capacities, which Old Town has since updated on their website versus when I first did the drop. So the usable weight capacity on the PDL 120 Pro is now 420 pounds. So that's a bit of an upgrade of this one, the OG version, which is 384 pounds. So you get, give or take, an extra 40 pounds of usable weight capacity on the brand new PDL 120 Pro. One of the big changes though, even though the outside width is the same on this new PDL 120 Pro versus the PDL 120, the inside changes all over on the dimensions because they thinned out the gunnels. That's the biggest feature, the biggest update on this hull. These gunnels are a lot thinner here versus right here. I mean, you can tell the difference on these. It's so much thinner, so that means your cockpit is a lot bigger. So we're gonna measure the inside right now to see the difference. Got my handy dandy measuring tape. So the inside of the PDL 120, the original, right here at the drive, you're looking at just about 23 inches, maybe 22.5 inches, okay? And at your feet, you have same thing, about 23 inches, versus over here, you've got, at the drive, you've got 28 inches at the drive, and at your foot level, your foot space, you got 26 inches, a little bit more than 26 inches right there. So a lot of space changed. Now let's check the rear tank well. All right, you're looking at 23 inches versus, let's see what we got over here, 26. All right, just shy of 26 inches. Huge change. I mean, just thinning out the gunnels without changing the outside dimensions changes the whole feel and layout of the kayak, the way you can store your gear, the way you feel, the walkability of the kayak just from that one thing. So you're talking about one change that changed the whole fundamental feel of this kayak. And as far as pedal drives are concerned, this is the pedal drive that comes on both of these kayaks. Old Town didn't think that there was a warranted change in the drive from 5 years ago. I agree with them. I think it's one of the best, if not best, pedal drives on the market right now, as far as it being very low maintenance, consistent performance, and just super heavy duty and durable. I mean, this one has a lot of them beat. So it's the same pedal drive if you get the 2020 version of this kayak or if you get the brand new 2025 PDL 120 Pro. However, if you opt for the ePDL Plus, which comes with the ePDL drive, then you're talking about a difference that obviously has the ePDL, which is more expensive, which we'll talk about price at the end of this video. So it allows you to pedal manually, have a hybrid assisted pedal power option, or a fully motorized drive as well. And now we're gonna talk about storage between these two kayaks. Which one has more storage? One of my favorite features about this kayak is this front hatch. This hatch is absolutely ginormous. Tons of space in there. Excuse the mess. Tons of space in this kayak. Let me grab my phone so I can light it up for you. You could store rods down here. You could store all your wiring, everything that you need in this kayak. Now, the cool thing is that Old Town changed it, but they changed it for the better, because now instead of this round oval, as you guys have seen, now you get this more regular trapezoidal shape. All right, so as far as opening it, it still opens the same way. It uses that bungee system, but they expanded how much access to space you actually have in there versus the other. You still have full access all the way down, if you guys can see, to store rods, to store batteries, to do your wiring and everything. So tons of space, and now you could fit your hand better in this shape of a hatch versus this shape right here. So it's still super spacious, but more practical at the same time. Moving back from the hatch space, the original Old Town has these side pockets right here. And of course, that didn't really change a whole lot on these side pockets for the Old Town PDL 120 Pro. One thing that has changed though is that what used to be a cup holder right here is now access to your rudder control and a place you could add a track. But here in these pockets, you could put a drink. Like, it's rounded perfectly to put a can of soda, a water bottle, a Yeti cup, your coffee. And like I've already shown you, as far as the rear tank well is concerned, this one on the PDL 120 Pro has more space because the gunnels are thinner than the original version. Still a ton of space in this one. I won't deny it. There's a lot of space in the original PDL 120, but you get a lot more here. You also get inside access to the rear of the hull, which you don't get over there. A lot of guys used to just add an access port right here, but now it comes with it. So I wouldn't count this as storage, although, I mean, nothing's stopping you from putting some emergency stuff back here if you really want to, but it's really more for rigging than anything else. And as far as accessing the center of the hull, you also have this access spot right underneath, which is the same as this one right here on the PDL 120. So you have this where I have my yak power system. On this one, I won't have my yak power system because this is where the battery goes for the ePDL version. So I got my 20 amp, 36 volt amped outdoors battery right here. But again, we're comparing the PDL 120 Pro, not the ePDL Plus. So if you get the standard PDL 120 Pro, there's not gonna have a battery spot there. So you can use that to mount your yak power system, your live scope black box right in here. Plenty of space there, but the same size as the standard PDL 120. And since we're down here, we'll look at under seat storage as well. I do think that the PDL 120 Pro has the advantage there. You can see how much space is there versus the PDL 120. You do have some space under here for some extra tackle, a small battery maybe, but you can put an entire battery box, an extra dry bag, extra gear, whatever it is under this seat. So I do think the PDL 120 Pro has more storage under the seat. In general, when we're talking about storage across both kayaks, both have great storage, but I do think the 120 Pro has more storage and it gives you a little bit more of that peace of mind that you can take all the gear that you want to take with you on the water. The PDL 120 Pro has changed the way it does rod storage versus the PDL 120. So all the 120 offered was these flush mounted rod holders. You get one rear facing here, one rear facing here, which I changed out with a track, and a forward facing rod holder. And you have those same flush mounted rod holders. You have one here and one here, both rear facing, and you get a forward facing one right here, which I really love. But now you have horizontal rod storage on this kayak because the gunnels are so much thinner and the amount of space you get in the cockpit is so much more. You can accommodate 4 rods, 2 on either side, and still have the same amount of leg room you had before. And these tubes go about 38 inches down, and they're fully protected by these tubes on the inside. So tons of space, and the reels would just sit right here in this pocket. So they thought about this all the way through, not just where the rod tips go, but also where your reels sit. And if you have an oversized rod, there's this recess right here where the rod can sit right there. So you get plenty of space with rod storage, and there's a huge advantage in the 120 Pro when you're talking about rod storage and how many rods you can take with you on the water. Now let's talk about the all-important riggability. You want to deck out your kayak and make it your own. I have yet to see any kayaks that are identical to each other, because you make it your own by adding your fish finders, your graphs, your live scope, your lights, your systems, everything, okay? So you might know that one of the biggest features that Old Town added were these massive aluminum tracks for your gear. You get one on either side, 36 inches, tons of space, and 36 inches on the back on either side. So essentially from front to back, you have one big rail, which is a ton of room to customize where you put your graphs, where you put your controls, your lights, your additional rod holders, all that stuff. Now compare that to the rails of the PDL 120. You got an 18-inch rail here and an 18-inch rail here. Now these are aftermarket rails from Navarre that add a little bit more durability, but either way, it's not a lot of space. 16 inches or 18 inches here and there. In the back, I did add a 12-inch Mighty mount from Yak Attack, but if you're doing something heavy duty, these are not gonna get you very far unless you put a backing on them. So as far as rail space goes, this guy, the 120 Pro, is the clear winner. But there's other features as well when we're talking about riggability. The PDL 120 has the rear mount here already for a shallow water anchor. So if you want to add a micro power pole, a motor, which I did here, this is my Newport mount for my NK 180 Pro. It makes it easy to do that. So you get one of those on the PDL 120. But if you want even more, you get two of these on the PDL 120 Pro. So you can put two micro power poles, one motor and a micro power pole. You can combine it any which way you want. And you get, of course, the front trolling motor. So if you want a bow mounted trolling motor, you get this mount here. So it comes already with the screws and the same 4-hole pattern on the front. That's super important, because if you wanted to add a bow mounted trolling motor on this one, you could do it, but you have to buy an additional third-party plate to put here, and it's kind of a hassle. I mean, you could do it, and a lot of people do it, but this one is ready to go out the box. Now, when you're adding the motor, you have to get a little bit creative with the battery space on the PDL 120. You can put a smaller one under the seat. You can put one behind your Blackpack Pro here. With the 120 Pro, they have a couple more options. First and foremost, you can easily put a battery right under your seat without skipping a beat. There's so much space there. Also, if you were to put the battery back here, it comes already with these lash down tabs, so you can put a strap and pull it down so it doesn't go over in some rough waters or anything. And you'll also notice right here, like I mentioned earlier, you get this inside hull access, which is really big with rigging. If you're putting a motor or a micro power pole in there, you're gonna have to get in there, and that's how you do it. But one of the real rigging beauties when it comes to the PDL 120 Pro are these through hull kits from Old Town that come installed already. And you get not 1, 2, 3, 4, but you get 5. You get one here, you get one here, you get one here, one on the bow, and like we saw back here, one on the stern. So this eliminates the need to drill any holes to run wires. You have a ton of options. You don't have to drill those holes. I did that here on a couple of them. Like I had to drill these holes right here, and this was with a Yak Attack through hull kit for my power and transducer cable. My transducer cable here, I had to drill that one as well. So, you know, it's not a big deal if you're used to drilling into your kayak, but not drilling into it is even better. One of the most important things about a kayak is how comfortable the seat is. Because the reality is, if you have an uncomfortable seat in your kayak, you're either gonna change it out or you're not gonna use the kayak. Because if your bum's hurting, your back's hurting, your knees and hips are hurting, you're not gonna use the kayak. So the seat from the Old Town PDL 120 is extremely comfortable. Of course, adding the kayak cushion on there, it makes it even more so. But the seats themselves are great. They're sturdy. They don't bend up. They don't rust. I mean, I haven't had any issues with my seat. They're easy to adjust. Now, as far as the seating on the 120 or the PDL 120 Pro, it hasn't changed. It's the same seat. Okay, they changed the color, the framing, but that's it. The frame is the same. The mesh seat is the same. The durability is all the same. So if you think this seat's comfortable, this one is equally comfortable. They did change the way though that the seat moves about. Now it sits on this plastic shuttle right here, and you can move it forward and backwards, and that's how you adjust your seating. Okay, so I do think it's more simple that way, you just unscrew these to loosen them, and then you just move front and back, and where you want to go, you just tighten it, and that's it. As opposed to on the PDL 120 is you get these little tabs that you have to pull up to then move, and you have to do them both at the same time, and it stays in whatever little hole you got it lined up for. So it's kind of annoying. I mean, it works, but kind of annoying. So I do like the fact that they changed this, and now the seating is a little bit higher. So when you're measuring, you know, from the deck floor to the seat versus the deck board to the seat here, you get another probably inch or two in height between the PDL 120 Pro and the PDL 120. Now, a less important difference between the two, but one that people still care about, are the colorways available. When the PDL 120 first came out, it came out in Photic Camo, which is this one right here, or in Ember, which is the orange and black that it looks dope, it looks fire. But now the PDL 120 Pro comes in two exclusive colors that are only available in the Pro. This one being Storm, which has that black, a little bit of white, and like royal blue compared to the teal blue on the Photic Camo. So it comes in Storm, and it comes in one called Sierra, which is a brown and black, which also looks really sick. And the next thing we're gonna look at is the build quality, the fit and finish. How does the kayak feel? Does it feel high quality? Does it feel like it has the nice features, like they didn't leave uncut corners, all that stuff? Because if you've been on this kayak, the PDL 120, then you know it is a high quality kayak. It feels high quality, the drive feels good, it feels thought out, well thought out. And I gotta say the same thing about the PDL 120 Pro. And it feels refined. I've had some comments from the first video. Some people are saying, oh, it looks like this kayak, it looks like that kayak, it looks like it could be cheaper. None of that's true, man. I don't think it feels cheap. It don't look cheap. It looks finished. It looks well thought out completely from bow to stern. I mean, even when you're talking about the handles, of course, you get this, and I forgot to mention it earlier for the rigging, but you get this front handle that's also a 6-inch track, but on the bottom, it's rounded so that you're not hurting your hands. It feels heavy duty. When you're talking about the side handles as well, which are also tracks, it's heavy duty. They're rounded on the bottom to provide extra grip and comfort. I mean, it feels well thought out. Even the straps, they're not just cheap grommets and that's it. So does it feel like a $3,500 kayak in the case of the PDL 120 Pro versus does it feel like a $2,800 kayak when you're in the PDL 120? And my response is, yeah, I think it feels like it's at the price they're selling it. It doesn't feel like they're charging more only because they added a couple things. They added a bunch of things by thinning out the gunnels, adding the rod stagers, adding the pre-installed rigging options, the rails. They didn't cheap out and go with plastic rails. They went with expensive rails. They even added notches here in the middle, so it makes it a little easier to take accessories on and off if you've got a couple on there. So all that stuff I just think is well thought out as far as the fit and finish go. So now we're gonna do the price and value comparison. I already gave a little bit of the price, but the PDL 120, which is still being manufactured, they're still gonna sell it, is $2,900 at the time of filming this video. $2,900 for this kayak, and it comes with the drive, of course. And then the PDL 120 Pro, again, we're pretending this is not the ePDL because everything else is the same. The PDL 120 Pro is $3,500. So that's a $600 price jump from a brand new 2025 PDL 120 to a brand new 2025 PDL 120 Pro. And going even further, the ePDL Plus is $6,000. Again, that comes with the ePDL drive and all the benefits for that. But ultimately, both of these kayaks come ready to go out of the box. If you buy the 120, you get it ready to go. Your drive, you plop it in, you can go straight from the store to the launch and go fishing. When it comes to the PDL 120 Pro, same thing. You can go right to the launch, plop in your drive, and keep it moving. So the big question is, who's this kayak for? This PDL 120 Pro, who is it for? Is it for the weekend warrior? Is it for the tournament guy? Honestly, the answer is yes. It could be for the tournament guy. It has more features on it versus the PDL 120. It does come with more features, more rigging options. It comes with things that are ideal for the tournament angler that's gonna have a bunch of tech on the kayak. Now, if you're a minimalist guy, then I would be inclined to say go with the PDL 120, right? If you're just a minimalist and you don't get out fishing that much. However, if you like, even if you're not a tournament angler, but you like to soup it up, you like to put a motor, you like to put electronics, you like to put a phone charger, a speaker, all that stuff, this one just makes it easier, and it's ultimately completely versatile. If you can put it one way, decide you not like it, and because you don't have to drill any more of these holes, you could change it around the next day and not feel like you ruined your kayak. So yes, I think it is for the weekend angler, the tournament angler, the casual angler. Now, if you just bought yourself a brand new 2025 or 2024 PDL 120, is it worth upgrading tomorrow? That's up to you to decide. I mean, I probably wouldn't. This one has enough features that it can keep you happy. It's versatile enough that you can change it around and do a lot of different things to it without having to upgrade right away. So no, personally, I wouldn't upgrade. If I just bought that one brand new a couple months ago, I wouldn't go and jump to this one this season. I would probably rock with that one for a year or two until I can find a good used one on the market, so I wouldn't go upside down on my investment. Now let's talk about the couple things that Old Town didn't change from the PDL 120 to the PDL 120 Pro, because there's a couple things that they didn't change. First and foremost, the transducer mounts are the same. You got the transducer mount right here, universal, and you have this one right here, all the same, didn't change. It fits Humminbird, Lawrence, Garmin fish finders perfectly. It works good enough, so I mean, there's not much room of improvement there. Another thing that didn't change is the rudder control. You got this rudder control right here, and you got the rudder control right back here as well. It didn't change. I did add a little knob on here from Navarre Kayak Fishing, but they are the same control. The deployment for the rudder is the same. This one is top mounted, where this one right here is side mounted. So that changed, but the actual deployment itself didn't change. And lastly, the rudder itself didn't change. That rudder does look different because, again, that's the Navarre Kayak Fishing rudder. So that one is all aluminum, but the stock rudder from Old Town is the same. It's just plastic. The bungee system that holds down the hatch, same on both of these. The bungee system in the tank wells, same on both of these as well. I mean, not much to improve there. The EVA foam padding on both of these really hasn't changed. It's probably a little bit bigger on this one, on the PDL 120 versus the PDL 120 Pro. I mentioned the flush mounted rod holders. Those all stayed the same as well. You get two rear, one forward facing, and one forward facing on this kayak as well. And lastly, of course, the same paddle clip and the same seat and drive as far as the standard drive goes for both of these kayaks. And the last thing I'm going to cover on these kayaks is there anything on the PDL 120 Pro that I would change that Old Town added or didn't add? And the answer is yes. There's a couple things I'm not totally loving about this kayak. First and foremost, I think they skimped on this rudder. I understand why they kept the same rudder. That said, it's not a great rudder, but I used it for many years before I upgraded it. So if that tells you anything, it's still something you can bear with. Another thing that I wish that Old Town would have added is a swivel seat. Now, while I think that the seat is extra comfortable, I think they could have added some sort of hardware so that it's a swivel seat. A lot of these newer, bigger fishing kayaks are coming with that swivel seat already installed, and anglers are liking that. They like the versatility of swinging their body over, especially for guys that maybe have less flexibility. They don't have to turn their whole body around to grab their lures or their rods. If they're not able to do that, they could just, turn your seat and then go grab something without having to stretch over so much. So I do wish that Old Town added a swivel seat on this kayak. And lastly, they could have added some more EVA deck padding. This is a really sad amount of deck padding. I mean, you're talking about maybe 4 inches wide on each one and like 12 inches here and maybe 9 inches here. So there's not a whole lot of deck padding, which means if you're thumping around, if you're dropping things, you're gonna hear that it's gonna vibrate through the water every time you drop your pliers or a lure or something else. You could buy some third-party ones more than likely, but that's gonna cost you probably $300, $400, $500 to add that on there. Make sure you guys check the link below for our sponsor Aura and that 14-day free trial. And if you want more information on the PDL 120 Pro and ePDL Plus 120 Pro, check the links in the description below. If you thought this video was helpful, YouTube thinks you might like this one right here. So until next time, guys, peace and God bless.